Hello and welcome to Frankly Speaking. And today joining me is the one and only Union Finance Minister, Ms. Nirmala Sitharaman. Thank you for joining me. And may I congratulate you for a stupendous success in the G20. Though the G20 has been seen as the great Indian big fat wedding, on the one side were serious negotiations, so the serious track was there. On the other, there was all the frills and fancies of art, culture, meeting, greeting going on. And then, of course, there were a few relatives who were extremely upset. How do you see the G20, the outcome?
Well, I think G20 Delhi Declaration is a landmark piece of a document. And right at the beginning, unhesitatingly, I'll give all the credit to Honorable Prime Minister. He had a complete picture of how this has to be handled in the country. He wanted it to be taken in every state and conducted in such a manner that the people feel that this is happening for our good. It is going to give something back to India. This is not just an international event, but all of us have something to contribute to it. So all this was explicitly stated by the Prime Minister even from the days when we were planning, much before he took it over from Indonesia in Bali. So we knew that we had to take it to all states. We knew that it had to be a very clear people's participation. We also knew that this was the way in which India's hospitality, Aditi Devo Bhava, will be showcased. And obviously, the hardest thing, that the content of what we do is going to have such meat in it that people will participate, the delegates will participate with the nitty-gritty in their hand, so that the eventual document, which now is called Delhi document, Delhi Declaration, would be a landmark piece. Therefore, from the beginning, through the running in this 1 year, taking it to all states, showcasing the state's uniqueness, food, culture, their music, their festivals, their artwork, the craftsmen, everything was put in place. Every member country and my counterparts have told me that India has actually handled it in such a way that it has lifted the entire G20 presidency for any country. It set a very high benchmark, and truly, some of them even told me that in their team, there would be at least one officer who's visited at least 10 destinations in this country in the process of the deputies meeting, working group meeting, and so on. So India has showcased itself as a good tourism destination. Culture has been showcased. People have been given a chance to interact with these delegates who came in. Many of the products which are top-notch products have been showcased there for them to buy it, and even given as gifts by Honorable PM. All of us have given our counterparts. So it was utilized fully for putting India in its top position as a country worth visiting, seeing and appreciating for its values.
But many say that the manner in which this was conducted was almost as if you were using this event to catapult you in election season and market not just the Prime Minister, but market that India, that is Bharat, and that Prime Minister and his government are almost synonymous with the country itself. How do you react to that criticism?
Much before I react to all that, aren't they proud that India, in all its variety, in all its diversity, in all its cultural difference between one state to another, has been beautifully showcased? Are they not proud of it? Are they not proud that every delegate had a taste of all this for themselves? Was it possible within 1 year, even if you held a tourism year, India tourism year, would you have managed to do this much to draw the attention of top 20 countries of the world through their ministers and through their premiers, presidents, whoever, to draw attention to India, especially when the world is looking at one crisis after another with a sense of hopelessness? Wouldn't you think that this is a contribution that India's made to the world and in return got recognition? I would think that is the way to look at. You can have your domestic policy, politics and its compulsions. But wouldn't you want to first of all say that it has been conducted keeping all states in mind? There are times when people scream saying it's a federal structure, you've not respect. We've showcased every state. And in the process also kept in mind the sensitivity of some countries. We didn't bother. What is our sovereign land, we'll display, we'll showcase, we'll host. These don't appear. All right, now, in response to the question, India held Asiad Games. India held non-aligned summit. Was it for showcasing the then prime ministers? Was it just for election purpose? Oh, if that was the way you ran it, good luck to you. You ran it then, you may run it and run it similarly whenever in distant future you get a chance. But I thought it was the right approach Prime Minister took, that it's an opportunity to showcase India in all its variety. And that's what he did. And that was before you, before me, before all of us. I think the opposition should get out of its negative mindset and first concede on what it has given us, and then do your politics. No.
But there is no recognition, you think, of the fact some people in the opposition have come out and complimented
Shashi Tharoor.
Random? He's not random.
In the sense, he's in the party.
He's a member of parliament.
Of course he's a member of parliament. Of course he heads some of the important committees. Of course I recognize him as a very important member of the Congress party. But when I say random, just one odd individual. And that is his individual opinion. None of the parties which form those ... alliance, India alliance, have even had the grace to say, which the world has seen, that India was able to now negotiate even on some very sensitive and contentious issues, to bring all the countries, top 20, G20 countries on board and get a consensus at a time when you saw the last 3 presidencies went with one or the other issue and couldn't even find, one common note on which they could be brought together. Here, not just on one issue, but on every issue, consensus. India's diplomacy today is seen with the sense of awe, the maturity, the suave way in which they handled it, have all been recognized.
But this didn't even allow the US president to hold a press conference. Na bolunga, na bolne dunga. Mr. Jairam Ramesh, the head of the media cell of the Congress party, actually said that Mr. Joe Biden had to go to Vietnam to make his statement on the concerns about human rights, freedoms of various kinds in India. How do you respond to that criticism?
Wherever Prime Minister had a bilateral meeting, at the end of it, if there was a press release, they released it. If Jairam chooses that there should have been a press conference here and a statement there, or a statement here, it doesn't go by the interest and wish list of the opposition. Bilaterally, the 2 countries decide where they have to do it. It is not decided solely by the PMO. So he knows all this. He knows as to how in a multilateral event, and where bilaterals are also held, how things are conducted. Well, what does it cost him for him to say anything?
Humongous amounts of money were spent at a time when India is reeling under inflation. Common people are facing the brunt of high prices on their wallets, and inflation rates in July, especially the food inflation, has been extremely high.
Navika, I can talk for quite some time on just the inflation. I'm not saying the prices of edible products, particularly perishables, are not pinching the common people. We are trying to make sure that the supply side difficulties are handled. And I'm not indifferent to it. We are making sure that improved supplies reach people, and you saw tomatoes have already crashed to the other end, where the farmers are not even getting their input costs back. So there are mismatches, supply side mismatches. There is a group of ministers who look at it almost alternative days to make sure that commodities reach. And at that time too, I stood up in the parliament to answer that for tomatoes, we are procuring from Kolar and some tomato growing areas and importing from Nepal and immediately spreading. And you must have seen, as media, you would have noticed in Delhi, in different areas, we sent mobile vans to sell tomatoes to people.
I want to ask you, then what is the agenda for those bills that are there, or just moving into the new parliament, or is it one nation, one poll? Is it the women's reservation bill?
First of all, on women, G20 recognizes that India is doing governance, keeping women in the center. In fact, women-led development is the idea which PM put through the 10 years, and that was also an issue which G20 took cognizance of, and they appreciated that this women-led development idea of taking decisions which will put women in the forefront is something which the G20 Delhi Declaration also appreciates. So what are you talking about? If there's been a government which has done systematically work to strengthen women, it is Prime Minister Modi's government.
What about the bill? What about reservation for women?
Well, you will get to know whatever is the agenda which will be released by the Parliament Affairs. You will see
Do you think it should come? As a woman, parliamentarian, do you think there should be women reservation?
I'm a representative of a government. I can only speak that which I can speak. My personal views are kept aside. I will not talk about it.
Government ready for a caste census? Because BJP leaders in Bihar say, yes, we need a caste census because that's the politics of Bihar, but in the center, you don't want a caste census coming up. Why is there double speak, and why are there political...
There's no double speak. Party in a state feels something. Center has taken a position. Where's the double speak? You speak very much for freedom of speech. This is it.
That they can speak what they want.
In a state, if they think they want to articulate something, they would. But they also do go by the decision taken by the party in its collective wisdom.
So no caste census?
Well, you've heard the party speak about it. I don't think I will enter into a discussion.
Let me ask you, 200 rupees reduced on gas cylinders, done just before Raksha Bandhan.
Not even before. 200 rupees subsidy was given even before for all the Ujjwala consumers.
Is that all? Or do you have some more love that is likely to come out in the next few weeks?
75 lakh new connections.
That was part of the same announcement.
Yes.
Any more announcements?
Well, we made an announcement. See how it is working out. I think the media's duty is to go find out.
We're running into election season, and your party, for whatever governance records that it talks about, manages to reduce excise duties on petrol, diesel closer to elections. Rest of the time, they say these are controlled by oil marketing companies.
21 November during Deepavali, there was no election. It was Deepavali. 22 June, there was no Deepavali. Both the times Honorable Prime Minister said, no, we need to bring it down. We brought it down. No election. There are elections in which promises were given that we'll bring it down by, say, 5 rupees or 7 rupees per litre. There are manifestos which said it. And after that, not even 1 rupee was reduced. In some state, 1.5 rupees was reduced, not the full amount promised. And when you ask them, they say, still we have another 3-4 years to go, we'll reduce it then. You got your vote, but you want to spread it on 5 years?
We are running into election season.
No, but states which have not done, I would want you to ask. And in those states, inflation still is very high and higher than the rest of the states where the prices were brought down.
Well, but I still continue to ask you, you are the first woman finance minister, and many people, when they look at you, especially women in this country, they look at you and feel that she'll probably understand our kitchen worries, our wallet worries more than others. You know, women tend to be the budget keepers at home as well. They're looking forward today to know from you, what's your roadmap from now till maybe the end of your term so that they can plan their lives around it?
Yes, I can for once say very clearly, I have not increased tax on any item till now, GST or direct. All right? No, yes. So this is one thing. Second, particularly for perishable commodities, we have made sure that supply side problems are addressed. There is a group of ministers which looks into it in detail. Rice and wheat have been released from Food Corporation of India go down so that market prices come down. Efforts are being made to make sure inflation is contained. And for those who wanted lesser rate of tax to pay, income tax, I brought in a second parallel system through which you pay lesser tax. And in that, people said standard direction is not being given and therefore it is still not attractive. I brought that in. So now, if you're earning approximately 60,000 rupees, you don't pay any tax at all. For 7 lakh odd, we don't charge any tax. So reduction of income tax has happened.
Dil mange more.
That's fine. You have every right.
But will you actually oblige?
I've heard you. Let's see.
Let me ask you on a personal note, Nirmala ji. You know, being a finance minister, holding a very, very responsible and heavy-duty position, being part of the Cabinet Committee on Security, Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs has its own pressures. When you see comments on social media, do you actually go through them? Do you see the memes? How do they affect you?
I do go through them. There was a time, I think, long time back, several years back, when it used to make me feel bad. Now I don't feel bad at all. I do hear the messages which come out. The memes entertain me. Actually, they do entertain me, and I don't mind if people want to make a joke out of it. But the intentions with which I work continue to be like before. I have to serve and serve for the country. That continues.
What next? Will you fight an election? Because political stories coming out say that everybody who's in the Rajya Sabha has been told to prepare to fight Lok Sabha elections. Will you be doing that?
Well, it's not been told to. I think if it's possible to consider. So that's where it lies.
Any discussion, debate, any area that you may have?
No discussions.
Nirmala Sitharaman, thank you very much for a very candid point of view. And do you manage to still continue to do a few of your hobbies along with?
Yes, I do.
And what are they?
Well, read books, listen to a lot of good music.
Carnatic music?
Classical music.
Classical.
Both Hindustani.
And that relaxes you?
Absolutely. There's no magic beyond music and mantra.
After the cacophony of politics.
Good mantra, listening to good mantra, reciting some mantras, and listening to music are great energy givers.
Well, many will see that as Sanatani all the way. Well, on that note, thank you very much for joining me on Frankly Speaking. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.